SARS-CoV-1. Now this coronavirus, we call it as SARS-CoV-2. This SARS-CoV-1 was spread in China and other countries earlier. It was the civet cats which was responsible for this spread. Then in 2012 to 13, we had MERS, Middle East Respiratory Syndrome, and that was spread by this coronavirus group, SARS-CoV-1, we call that as. And then it was responsible, the MERS group also belonged to this beta coronavirus, like the SARS in 2002, but it's 12 to 13, it was only in the Middle East, so it was called as MERS. But otherwise, it had the same thing and same similar structure and properties. And that was spread by our camels. So this coronavirus infection, in December 2019, the first incident, there were a cluster of pneumonia cases seen in China, in the Wuhan city. So these things they were known as 2019 December coronaviruses. First, initially they thought it was like a pneumonia-like symptom only was present because of this virus, and they thought it was a respiratory virus, but it's actually not. It attacks all the organs, it causes inflammation almost all the organs, and this virus belongs to the beta group of coronavirus. Now we know the route of entry, though it's a respiratory route, but it can present in the form of seizures, MI, and renal failure. So they also call it as in children like a pediatric inflammatory syndrome, multiple syndrome. So this is called as PIMS also. So going on to this virus. Next. Just a minute, we'll just move to the next slide. Screen. So you're able to see me?
Yeah, ma'am.
I'm visible and audible, right?
You're audible, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you. So this coronavirus is named for the crown-like spikes on the surfaces. Corona means coronation. So these crown-like spikes, because of this, we call it as coronavirus. And what are the spikes made up of? These spikes have got glycoproteins 128 and 28. And because of these glycoproteins and because of the spike-like structure, these are named as coronaviruses. So there are four main subgroupings of coronavirus: alpha, beta, gamma, and delta. I told you the beta is one, the beta group of viruses are highly pathogenic. So human coronaviruses were first identified in the mid-1960s. So we have already infection because of these viruses in mid-1960s, but those presented only with dry cough, sore throat, fever, and mild breathlessness, and it used to get settled on its own. And the good old practice of giving steroids probably helped them to cure it in the initial stage also. So that is the study I have given on it. Next slide. So the 7 coronaviruses that can infect people are 229, previous slide. Introduction. That screen already. The 7 coronaviruses that can infect people are 229E alpha coronavirus, NL63 the alpha coronavirus group also, and OC43 beta coronaviruses, the mid-1960 viruses these were, and HKU1 beta coronaviruses, and MERS-CoV the beta coronaviruses that cause the Middle East Respiratory Syndrome. I told you it was spread to camels, and SARS-CoV the beta coronavirus that causes severe acute respiratory syndrome or SARS. So this new virus was temporarily named as 2019 nCoV. And the disease is called as the COVID-19. That is coronavirus infectious disease 19. Next slide. So the pathogenesis is also very important. Virus enters to the nose and mouth, and then it finds a host cell in the respiratory system. So we used to say that respiratory or receptors are ACE receptors, but these ACE receptors are not found in children. Earlier, that was the study. And this host cell bursts and infects other cells nearby once it enters and binds. So this coronavirus, the incubation period is between 2 to 14 days. So during this period, while coughing or sneezing, there are plenty of virus particles that is released into the atmosphere. And if a person is very close by to us, they normally catch this infection. So we say that social distancing is important, and we are wearing masks to prevent the spread, and also hand washing. Why? How does a hand washing prevent the spread of virus? Because this virus is a bilipid layer envelope virus. So this lipid gets dissolved with the soap that we are using to wash our hands. So this soap is this virus is just a fragile virus. And you also know earlier in HIV also we used to say HIV infection, HIV virus is a fragile virus and they're destroyed by the soap. So just washing with soap and water will destroy the outer layer of the virus, which are binding with their spikes onto our ACE receptors. So when we have ACE receptors in our respiratory system, this binds to the respiratory ACE receptors very easily, and then it causes it doesn't get neutralized, but it then causes the infection spread. But this infection as such, initially we thought it causes pneumonia, but then no, it can multiply with the ACE receptors, but can spread throughout, and then it can get studded to many organs. So that's why it causes multi-organ system failure also. The novel coronavirus first spread to humans from an animal, they thought, in China, in Wuhan, through seafood and the wholesale market. But especially they thought it was spread by bats, then eating the raw meat also they thought they transmitted. But this is not so now, but it is human to human spread now. The virus is transmitted between humans in droplets from coughing and sneezing and touching or shaking hands. So this virus settles on our body and also on the surfaces or on the things they're called as fomites. So spreading through handshaking, through coughing, and through fomite is possible. So the virus also causes swelling in the respiratory system. They thought initially then they thought it settles in the alveoli, but now the pathogenesis is like it spreads throughout the system, and severe pneumonia can kill people, causing them to drown in the fluid. That was the main pathogenesis they thought. Now that is not the thing because of thrombosis or microclots. If the microclots are present in our coronary arteries, it can cause MI. If it is present in our brain and the blood supply of the brain gets occluded, it can cause seizures. If it occludes the arterial supply of the kidneys, it can cause renal failure. So that is the thing. That's why we say the inflammatory markers is very, very important to assess the severity of the disease. So what are these inflammatory markers we want to know? IL-6, interleukin-6 plays a major role in the inflammation. And then we have a rise in CRP, it's an indicator for increase in the inflammation. And D-dimers causes fibrin. D-dimers, if there is increase in D-dimer, that indicates there's a fibrin and thrombus formation in the blood. So these are all very important things. And when we know that ferritin level is also increased here, so there's deoxygenation and so on. So the first 5 days you can have the spike in temperature, that's a fever, and there'll be sore throat, and there may be mild shortness of breath. But when you see the oxygen saturation is less than 95, that means there is thrombus formation and fibrin formation leading on to microclots. And this is where the hydration plays a major role. So initially we never spoke about steroids, but then now steroids, warfarin like blood thinners, and heparin like low molecular weight heparin, these are found to be very useful when the infection is between the 5th to 10th day. So this is the time where we have to really take care of that. It's called as a cytokine storm. Because the first 5 days fever, you'll be only bothered to reduce the temperature. But once you are away from your temperature, when the temperature is normal, the cytokine storm sets in. So this lasts between 5 to even 14 days. That is where you have to be extremely careful. Then you'll always feel you don't have temperature, but there's something called happy hypoxia. That was the main reason many deaths occurred in Wuhan. They didn't know that there was a cytokine storm. But later on, studies indicated the cytokine storm is the cause for death. So all these inflammatory markers every alternate day, when you're whether you're home quarantine or whether you're in the hospital, they need to be measured. And simple IV fluids and steroids like methylprednisolone or dexamethasone in the initial stages would definitely help. And there have also been studies saying that our doxycycline 200 milligrams BD for 5 days, yeah, that has been very useful too. So along with vitamins and zinc. So why I'm saying at this point is because initially they thought it was only a disease of the respiratory system, but it's not so. So coming to the next slide, so before even going to the lab diagnosis and other things, so I think why I mentioned about all these things is, yeah, there are very varied presentation of the coronaviruses. So varied presentation. So corona is a large group of viruses which infect both humans and animals with cold related disease. They thought initially they had a high fever, cold and all those things, very basic things they guess that it could be the reason. I mean, it could be the symptoms. What are the signs and symptoms apart from cough, fever, shortness of breath, and sore throat? The other symptoms will be like vomiting, diarrhea, and severe renal failure also. So it is believed that the coronavirus transmits like other coronavirus like flu or something. But now we know the main mode of spread is the direct contact. And if we touch a surface containing the coronavirus, or if we shake hands, or if we touch our own eyes, nose, and mouth. So avoid touching men. That is mouth, eyes, and nose should not be touched. That's a short acronym for that. And washing your hands, social distancing can prevent, because though it's like a few microns in size, it can spread up to 3 feet in distance. It is believed that new coronavirus transmits like other things I told you. Now next slide will be. This is the structure of the coronavirus, spike-like things, and it is segmented. And then it's the largest among the RNA viruses, and it has got the trimers and dimers on its surface. You can see all the M spikes. So why there's no vaccine production possible for this coronavirus? Because there are too many spikes. If you have had one particular spike, definitely vaccination would have been possible. But there are too many spikes on the surfaces. So you cannot produce vaccine for a single spike or something. And these antibodies which are produced against the coronavirus, so this antigen stage and infective stage will last for 2 weeks. But then you will start producing IgM antibodies to neutralize the antigen. That starts with from 7th day onwards till the 14th day. So IgM antibodies during that stage indicates there's the ongoing infection also. But then the IgG antibodies, they are they are produced between 21st day of infection, and they last long, anywhere between just 3 weeks to 3 months. So there's no like long-term immunity or herd immunity is not possible. Why I'm talking about this when you're talking about the structure is because the structure is too complicated. The outer surface coating is exactly like an HIV virus, and the inner core has got something like a H1N1 and then the beta coronavirus. So it has a multiple mixed mutated virus. So that's why they're finding it very difficult to induce the herd immunity, as well as the vaccine production has become it's become a bigger challenge, because it can any resistance because of vaccine can last for just 3 months. But you also know that 3 and 4 different strains of coronaviruses at present causing this COVID-19. So they could be Italian strain or Iranian strain or Wuhan strain. So the vaccine production can be against one particular, but then there can be mutation and there can be several other strains of this particular coronavirus causing the infection. Similar that of dengue. So dengue, we have 4 serotypes. That's why vaccine production may be dengue vax, but still it was not of much use. So it's not like a chickenpox virus where you can have a lifelong immunity or so. So this is a complicated virus, and though it is SS linear, non-segmented, positive sense RNA virus, it's definitely a complicated virus with numerous spikes. So it's because of this complicated structure, there's had to be something new for this, or the virus has to slowly wane. And this was just called as a pandemic in month of January itself, because simultaneous infection all over the world it had occurred. And this is a great pandemic challenge. H1N1, it was supposed to be a bigger one, bigger challenge, but then some vaccine was possible for that, and it lasted for about 6 months at least, the vaccine efficacy. But here it is not like that. So this is a single stranded positive RNA virus, envelope virus, I say, because of this envelope because of its envelope, bilipid envelope, the washing hands with soap becomes easier, it gets destroyed. So other compared to other viruses, this is the envelope, and it belongs to a coronaviridae group. So what are these coronaviruses? Again, the specialty is they are believed to cause a significant percentage of all, like the human cold, and then coronavirus causes cold in humans in winter. Everything was a theoretical thing. But now it has no resistance to extremes of temperature. Maybe it can survive at 2 degrees centigrade. It can survive even at 50 degrees Fahrenheit, high temperatures also. Now, recently they have said in ICMR and WHO, the boiling of water, if at all that water contains coronavirus, that can be killed. So the boiling temperature only is needed to kill coronaviruses. And they found plenty of disinfectants like 10% sodium hypochlorite solution to destroy this virus, and cleaning of the floor with 50% Lysol to destroy this virus. That's why our clinical setup, after every patient visits you, you're supposed to clean the surface with 10% hypochlorite solution. It has been proven that it destroys the virus. Otherwise, this settles as a fomite on the surface of the chairs and the beds for 72 hours. That's why when you wear shoes to the clinic or your hospital, you are supposed to change footwear. We are supposed to use the same footwear only after 72 hours. It definitely sets in your shoes. So leave the shoes and reuse. At least have 5 pairs of shoes. Use it once in 5 days. You know, like how you use the N95 mask. Then again, using of the mask also becomes a challenge. You cannot disuse. Throw N95 mask daily. So you have to use once in 5 days. Similarly, your shoes, footwear is very important also. So this when they started seeing many pneumonia cases as cluster of cases in Wuhan, then only they thought this has to be a very dangerous virus, because inside a house, the home members of the same family, they got infected with the virus. Then they thought while coughing and sneezing, so many viral particles there, and reaches up to 3 meters, and that was how this novel coronavirus was supposed to be. Like I told you, the incubation period will be 2 to 14 weeks. Maybe they were sore throat and dry cough and, headache, fever, and shortness of breath. You are used to these types of symptoms, but sometimes the patient remains asymptomatic. Throughout, he'll remain asymptomatic, but they are the ones who are super spreaders. You don't know how much of viral load they have in them. They might spread it through cough, by they're touching their surfaces, because once they touch the nose or something, and they can spread infection by touching others. So this was a big challenge. So when traveling in air, they said if you have this symptoms, you have to be careful. So this is a slide showing that. And if you have a fever or cough, you have to wear a mask, and you have to be seated 2 seats apart. And also, we wanted to just show this. And alcohol based hand washing, and then they said eat only cooked food, avoid spitting in public. That's very important. Not only we transmit tuberculosis, we also transmit our coronaviruses. So now, after all these things, what are the challenges regarding this coronavirus? So epidemiology, if you see, throughout the world, there has been this coronavirus infection. Okay, and then and not only that, and they said the community spread, we are in stage 3 and all those things. So initially it was only in certain group of people or community, but now it's throughout, and your hospital healthcare workers are the most prone for this. And because of the increase in viral load, they have this cytokine storm also. Now, how do you prevent the cytokine storm? Again, it is a big challenge. Not everybody is prone for cytokine storm. Just like in dengue, once the fever subsides, you have all the inflammatory markers rise in you, the D dimer, CRP, ferritin levels, so IL-6. This is the most challenging thing. Now, when we come diagnosis of this, what is the major thing? Nasopharyngeal swab and throat swab. These two are the specimens to be collected. From these specimens, we take the specimens, and these swabs are kept in the viral transport media and transported to the center. Uh, then immediately the RT-PCR testing is done. So this takes about 6 hours. Why? Because first we had to do the RNA extraction. RNA, yeah. After this RNA extraction, then we are using the RT-PCR. But we also have something and CB0 for screening that detects the E gene and the RNA dependent RNA. But why we are most concerned about RT-PCR, but still RT-PCR was first developed by NIV Pune. We have the form like this for specimen collection, packaging, and transporting. So this government health authority, they have issued this form. But the thing is, after doing a pharyngeal and oropharyngeal swab collection for missing patient in a VTM, then using the artificial method of testing, still it is not 100% reliable. It's only 67% sensitive. And we also had CB0 and CB0 test. And what about this antibody testing? It detects IgG and IgM also. We have the kit for that. We have the ELISA method to detect IgG antibodies. But once a patient has, I have IgG antibodies, we feel he is immune to it and he cannot spread the disease during that time exactly. But how long does it stay? It stays only for maximum of 90 days. Now in Wuhan, those who suffered from this disease, after 100 days, they cannot find any of the IgG antibodies in their circulation. But most of them, they had pulmonary fibrosis and they had even MI during the course. So how about getting these IgG antibodies and plasma therapy, they thought could be useful. Yes, for some, if they're in stage 2 of the disease during the cytokine storm, that time IgG antibodies transmission via this plasma, like to the plasma will be useful. But then again, the donor has to be checked every time before he donates this IgG antibodies, because that might start declining. For some, it has declined even after 4 weeks after they have formed the antibodies, IgG antibodies, and it only lasted till 3 months. So we cannot say that plasma therapy would be very useful. We can only say that if the patient has got this particular infection, he might not be infected with the same strain again for 3 months. But there are other strains which can cause like a reinfection, COVID-19 infection. So there are nearly 3 to 4 strains which can keep coming and going. So simultaneously, there are people who have got both the strains. They have developed antibodies for one strain. The other strain can affect the organs. So in pediatric age group, it presents like a Kawasaki disease, resulting in coronary artery dilatation. But in adults, it can affect your coronary arteries, resulting in MI. There are sudden incidences of MI, even if they're asymptomatic after 2 or 3 weeks, they are prone for mortality because of myocardial infarction. And it also affects the blood vessels in the brain, causing seizures. So these are the main things we have to keep it in our mind regarding our COVID infection. Never think there'll be a vaccine and there'll be a lifelong immunity or something like that. So the nucleic acid amplification techniques, what I was saying was PCR assays are being designed to detect the sequences. This RT-PCR has been done now everywhere. And I told you the only disadvantage of this RT-PCR, which we still consider it as gold standard, it detects only 67% is sensitive. Why? Because there might be some mistake in taking the swabs, viral transport media, the constituents may not be correct. And while sampling the CT values depends and based on the different types of kits. Normally, when we say the CT values is around 10, that is the cycle threshold value, we give it as positive. Till 25, we consider it as positive. 25 to 35, weakly positive or something like that. But each kit, it depends on each kit. So this RT-PCR, though they test negative, if their CT changes, the CT is very, very important. If they have ground glass appearance in their chest, X-ray or in the CT, this thing, then they have really suffered from coronavirus infection. And what they need is oxygenation through HFNC, and they also require all the anticoagulants at this stage, like our low molecular weight heparin and steroids like methyl prednisolone, and also blood thinners like warfarin and aspirins, like maybe like ecosprin. So these are the things. So just RT-PCR negative doesn't show that, yeah, RT-PCR doesn't show that, like negative means it need not be really negative. The other factors like CT, X-ray, pro-inflammatory markers detection, rise in either IL-6 or ferritin value, or D dimers, it indicates there's thrombosis. So basic hydration is very important. During 5th to 10th day of infection, patient needs to take about nearly 5 liters of water per day, at least 3 to 5 liters. So your CBC count and other counts are not that reliable, but definitely your ferritin levels above 500 is very, very valuable. It's very much valid. So we won't know who is prone for the cytokine storm. They say dehydration can promote cytokine storm. And zinc and vitamin C have ability to bring down the cytokine storm. So this all this C, COVID-19, cytokine storm, and detection of IgG antibodies, can last only for 3 months. So we can't be reliable just on plasma therapy or just on vaccination on herd immunity. So of course, personal immunity might help and hygiene. So prevention is better than cure. So I would say always, wash your hands, keep maintain social distancing wherever you go, and in public or something, wear a mask. And N95 mask is definitely superior to your AAA mask and cloth mask. So the type of mask you choose to wear in your atmosphere or in your clinic also is very important. And you have to fumigate in case if somebody is positive in your house, you have to fumigate disinfectant your house. You have to disinfect the surfaces with 10% sodium hypochlorite solution, even in your clinic or hospital. And floor should be disinfected with 5% Lysol. So all these measures, if you take, you can prevent the spread of infection. And to some extent, we can also not have complications of this disease. And keep it in your mind that the asymptomatic carriers are the most dangerous than the symptomatic carriers. Finally, the three.
Madam, pardon us. We need to restart the session. It's below 1 minute.
Okay.
I'll just send the link in 1 minute. Yeah, 2 minutes. Yeah.
Okay.